I keep turning away from speaking of your letter. I feel to speak of it would be to contain what it did to me, to make it small. I don't want to do that. Fuck. I feel to speak of my favorite book would be the same thing. It would contain what it did to me and make it small, and I do not want to do that. But I also have to talk about it. Hello, welcome to Lesfuture. Today, I'm just gonna rant about my favorite book. And it feels so weird for me to even say I have a favorite anything, but I have a favorite book. Honestly, there's no real competition. I knew a quarter of the way through this book that it was just gonna tick all, that it was just gonna be perfect. It didn't matter how it ended. I was going to love it. My favorite book, yes, it's gay, is This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal, El-Mohtar, and Max Gladstone. This Is How You Lose the Time War is a lesbian romance novel beautifully, mesmerizingly dressed up in a time travel science fiction world. The love interests, named Red and Blue, are automaton agents on opposite sides of a time war. So they travel through time, altering little pieces of history in favor of their side of the war. And they start leaving little letters for each other, little notes. At first it's kind of mocking, you know, they're stroking their own egos, like, look what I did this time. But soon they come to realize that they have more in common than they originally thought. And I think doing enemies to lovers properly, like I feel there's definitely books I can name that really mess up the pace of enemies to lovers, which makes it completely unbelievable. How could these people who started out despising each other fall in love? I feel like that's a delicate line to walk, and this book does it so freaking well. It tastes so good. The fact that this book was written by two different authors, unrelated authors, like especially as a filmmaker, you know, we're taught a ship with two captains. I really thought that analogy was gonna go somewhere. It doesn't work. Like any great movie or great novel you could think of, I mean, chances are it's one person. And when it is two people, they're usually related. You know, you have the Coens or the Wachowskis. But in this case, it's two unrelated authors, a man and a woman. It boggles my mind. But what I really want to talk about is what I love so much about this book, strangely enough, is the same thing that turns other people off of it. This book is a romance before anything else. Yes, it is dripping with science fiction, but at the forefront is romance, is love. More than that, it is a letter-writing romance between two highly intelligent beings, and it shows. What I adore so much about this book is the very way that it's written. It's the prose, it's the diction, it's fucking poetry. Sometimes when you write, you say things I stopped myself from saying. I wanted to say, I want to make you tea to drink, but didn't, and you wrote to me of doing so. I wanted to say, your letter lives inside me in the most literal way possible, but didn't, and you wrote to me of structures and events. I wanted to say, words hurt, but metaphors go between like bridges, and words are like stone to build bridges, hewn from the earth in agony, but making a new thing, a shared thing, a thing that is more than one shift. But I didn't. I don't know what this means. This feels like being cut off again in the strangest way. Feels like teetering on the brink of something that will unmake me. But I trust you. I miss the length of your letters. Maybe it's as simple as my first love. I was so bad at talking to this person, so I would write it all down. I would write them love letters. So maybe it can be as simple as the fact that I relate to this in the most beautiful way. It's these two beings in love trying to wrap that love in words to be gifted. And I think that is so special. It's poetry. But the reason that I feel so many people can be turned off of this book is for that same reason. Because if you were to pick this up off a shelf, knowing it was a science fiction time travel, there's even some heavy action in here. Knowing those things, reading the back of the cover, picking it up, you would probably expect a pretty simple read through of a brainy, entertaining, science at the forefront story, and it's just not that. This is a book written with heart, meant to be read with heart. The sentences, it's not meant to be read through. It's meant to be pored over and reread, sentences reread, as if you would if someone had given you an actual love letter. I mean, you would reread the hell out of that thing, poring over every little meaning of every little word. What does this mean? What does that mean? What are they really trying to tell me? You kind of read this in this similar fashion. You can tell that that's what was intended by writing like this. I don't think you'll laugh, or if you do, the laughter would delight me. Maybe I've overread the simple word with which you close your letter, but I can never overread you, and the word you chose is not simple. That is what I adore about this book. It's the juxtaposition. I mean, there's something I really love about having this older feeling, Jane Austen-esque letter writing prose wrapped up in this setting of technology. And it never feels out of place. It never feels forced or unearned. It feels perfectly right for these characters to be talking and writing this way. There are several times I've had to just kind of stop reading, put the book down, and look up a word. It's one of those books, but I enjoy that so much. It never feels like a hassle, like, I don't know what that means, I have to look it up. It feels like a pleasure to want to look up what they're talking about so I can better understand their love for each other. And then, of course, it is gay. But it never really calls attention to that. In fact, there were many times I forgot that they even had genders. They just felt like red and blue. That is the way it's supposed to be. And I think it's an incredible feat for a queer story to do that. To stop feeling like a queer story and just be a love story. So many of the queer novels I've been reading lately have been YA. I tend to read through those without a lot of effort, which is fitting for a YA audience, I think. But when a book like this comes along that makes you stop every other sentence and just kind of reevaluate the meaning of it all, the meaning behind the subtext, I think that is so special. I like to work a little bit for my food, right? I don't want to be spoon-fed everything. I want to have to think. And that's what this prose, that's what this diction does. And I don't know, maybe that's your thing, maybe it's not. I think just a few times in your life, you get a piece of art that comes along that just sings to you. It just touches you and moves you in ways that nothing else does. And I think it's so important, no matter what anybody else has to say about it, no matter what it means to anybody else, it's important to cling on to those things because they are few and far between. I'm not really gushing about this book to you in hopes that you'll read it. I do hope you read it, and I do hope it means a fraction to you what it means to me. But really what I'm trying to say is I have found one of the few things. Getting to talk about the things that touch us in our core. I mean, that's the whole reason I'm making this video. I mean, it's a delight. Her pen had a heart inside, and the nib was a wound in a vein. She stained the page with herself. She sometimes forgets what she wrote, save that it was true, and the writing hurt. But butterfly wings break when touched.